Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Happy Friday to you and your family. We're taking another look at Bitcoin, of course. We're just going to take a quick look at the charts and understand, generally speaking, which direction it should head throughout the weekend, kind of a weekend forecast. We also can kind of identify, we'll look at this a little bit later, but generally speaking, right here we have this unemployment rate. It was basically the US unemployment rate. It came out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that's why we see it here at about 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So just keep in mind that is roughly what we're looking at there. That's the reason for that little reset button, but it's since recovered and done fairly well, regardless of the fact that the traditional markets are down for the day, right? So we can see the same exact thing. They kind of gapped down, for lack of better terms, or just instantly opened in a red, right? The pre-market hours were fairly terrible for the traditional market. So again, Bitcoin holding fairly strong, all things considered. Not a bad thing. All right. So again, if you want to stay abreast on those fundamentals, I have fundamental news updates almost daily at this point, very consistent throughout the week to always keep you abreast on those situations. Make sure to use the links in the description below. I send that through Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're not following me there, make sure to check that out in your own time. So really quick, just kind of preface here with what we're looking at. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the daily and kind of see where we're at. Because again, if I recall correctly, we're still retesting that 50 on the RSI. We haven't technically retested it yet, but we still haven't, decreased significantly. We are losing some momentum here on the MACD, but that's still positive nonetheless. So all in all, at this point, even though we're under 50 on the RSI and the general sentiment is bearish, we're still looking fairly decent in that sense. We are making, again, technically higher lows and higher highs on the daily. Okay, so as long as this next low doesn't come any lower than 16,200, we should be in good shape to continue to see this progress. All right, so again, very good stuff there in that regard. If you take a look at the moving averages too, just to quickly note, the 50 is working its way down closer to about the 18,000 range, which is awesome because in another couple of weeks, we could very well be back up above that, and that is typically a very bullish or positive sign. We were actually looking very good here previously, getting above the 50-day SMA just before FTX issue. Okay, so again, if FTX hadn't have happened, we'd probably still likely be up here in the 20,000 range, and that would have been fantastic. But hey, I can't complain. I've added a lot to my position over the last couple of weeks, and I hope that you have too, because again, we're probably not going to see these kind of price points, again in the distant future. Okay. A few years down the road, we're going to wish we'd added to our bag at 17,000. So just friendly advice, maybe consider adding to your position. Your portfolio should have no less than 50% Bitcoin and Ethereum in it. Okay. That's just my recommendation. It's not like a specific requirement by any stretch. All right, so let's take a look at the 4-hour and kind of go from there. If we take a quick peek at TD sequential, we can see we got a reset. We came down to a 5. Have this ugly candle here, of course, for the unemployment rate data here in the US, but we previously came up to a 9, so it makes sense the price came back down. Now, as I covered yesterday's video, I said 16,800 would be a good entry point. So hopefully you got a nice fill there with that little wick down, but generally speaking, we have a decent amount of support here at this level, and that's a positive sign. We take a look at the overall volume profile, we can see the most amount of volumes accumulated at about 16,500. So again, we're above that support. So we have some decent support in the range of 16.5 to 16.8. So for lack of better terms, the price were to come back down to those areas, we should experience a bounce from there, because that would still give us higher highs and higher lows. Okay, so again, this next low just can't be any lower, well, preferably no lower than 16.5, but definitely no lower than 16,300. Remember the daily close we just looked at there. So again, just something to kind of think about. Let's take a quick look at the RSI on the 4-hour. We're coming down, which is normal. This is very good. We've got a MACD divergence, of course, where the price action is swinging down. This could continue for a little while longer, so it is best to kind of wait for confirmation. But again, for me, confirmation is that unemployment data came out, the price wicked all the way down to 16.8 and got rejected pretty quickly there. So it tells us there's a lot of buying pressure at that level, and in turn, we should be able to experience a price action going sideways this weekend and or up. It seems less likely the price will go down unless there's something crazy that occurs near the end of today's trading day for traditional markets. And just bear in mind, NASDAQ is down almost 1.25% and S&P is down roughly a half. So again, there was a gap down for lack of better terms, but they're still doing okay. But the great news is here, Bitcoin isn't doing poorly. It recovered quite nicely with that wick down. So that to me is a positive sign. I think we should kind of focus on that more so. But again, we're still tentatively bearish on the daily. We got to recognize that. We're stuck under 50 on the RSI. That's just kind of the bottom line. All right, so let's take a quick peek at Ichimoku Cloud. We can kind of see we're traveling within the cloud here. And again, this is fairly range-bound activity, so it gets a little messy sometimes. There's no definitive direction. But the fact that we're above the cloud is still positive. But if we can't close today above 17,000, then we might likely be below that, and there might be potential for a bearish sentiment this weekend. Again, no guarantees on that for sure. Again, the cloud isn't 100% ideal, but it does tell us, good entries and good exits. And right now, lagging span being in the price action and the conversion line and baseline kind of intersecting with each other, there's not a lot of signals here to say a long is viable, nor is a short a viable option. Okay, we still got to wait. And that's why I like to wait for confirmation personally. I know some folks can kind of get irritated by the patience, but I can tell you what, it's served me very well over the years, and it's definitely something worth considering. Okay, so again, not looking terrible here. We're looking decent, I would say. Still mostly positive, but definitely not like a totally green light to take a long position. And I honestly don't even see a green light to take a short either, because even though we are coming lower here, we have lower lows, barely, we're seeing a consistent retest of the 17,000 range. So my speculation is when we retest 17,000 once more, we'll likely break through that based on the fact that it keeps getting rejected and that it's working as a resistance for the moment. But there's a lot of support just below that level, right around 16,000. Again, 16,500, we have a tremendous amount of volume. 16,800 essentially is a really good place in which we'll see the price action likely continue to hold as well. We saw it here, and we are seeing it here so far. So to me, honestly, the way that Bitcoin's performing contrary to the traditional markets, that's a sure sign to me that the price is more likely to increase than decrease because of the fact that it's doing well and maintaining a good price, whereas the regular markets are kind of coming down, okay? So again, for the most part, even though we hit this little reset button here with US unemployment data, it's still looking pretty decent, okay? Last thing we want to take a quick look at is TD sequential here. Not a lot to really note except for the fact that we have previously, we came up to a 9 and then came up to an 8. Okay, so it makes sense the price action is continuing to progress down lower, kind of bleeding itself out, so to speak, taking those profits. But for the most part, the fact that it's maintained this price point between 16.8 and 17 tells me that we're in pretty good shape to see an increase likely moving forward. So my speculation wouldn't be a strong green weekend, but I do think we're more likely to see a green candle this weekend than red candles, right? That's just generally what the sentiment is here. But again, I could be totally off. No one's perfect, and technical analysis is by far a perfect situation. But I can tell you, it increases the odds of success if you take a look at previous patterns and understand where it's going and why things are the way they are. To me, the obvious thing we want to celebrate here, or just remain positive about, is that Bitcoin is doing better than traditional markets are right now, and that usually implies that the bottom is in. We've seen that previously as well before, when the price action continued higher before the FTX crash, we had that price kind of baked in, for lack of better terms, and we were looking pretty good in this range until it dumped. Obviously, we know that was a fundamental catalyst, but for the moment, the fact of the matter is the price is going mostly sideways where traditional markets are going down, and that is showing strength for Bitcoin, okay? And again, separating Bitcoin, you use the same strategy, honestly, with altcoins too. Like, how well is an altcoin doing contrary to Bitcoin? Bitcoin's going down and this, a specific XYZ alt is going up, then that's a good sign. That's usually an indication that it's stronger than, or its value towards Bitcoin is higher. So again, looking at Bitcoin pairings is another thing. We can cover that in another video, but for now, for lack of better terms, Bitcoin is doing well. And I don't see any concern with the price action coming down. It makes perfect sense. Continue to add to your position if you're going to dollar cost average. Otherwise, you're safe to go here for a potential long position. Again, I say potential, we want to wait for confirmation. Closure above 16,800 is what we're looking for. All right, so that's about all I got for you here today. Look forward to working with you if you want to become a better trader. CryptoCache.tech is a site, link down below. And again, if you want to actually have a phenomenal exchange, feel free to reference Bitget and consider using that, because I actually have a $10,000 prize pool monthly. It's a really awesome experience. So check that out in your own time. All right, thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.